Welcome to this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast, where we look forward to shaving every day. Welcome to episode 48 of the podcast. My name is Rick DeWeese. I'll be your host today. In today's episode, we've got some letters. The first letter, someone fessed up. The next two letters are real special. I find them very special to read and talk about. They're unique. They're kind of what make the show for me. We'll also talk about a new brush. I used a rather older soap this week. It's been around for a while. In fact, it's been around for, about 25 years. What could possibly go wrong? So we'll talk about that. The razor of the week, it's been around for a while too. It's just, it's not a new razor. It's got a few years on it. We'll talk about it. Anyhow, emails and phone calls are always special to me. And in fact, like I said, the letters this week make it for me. They put me, in an excellent mood. So if you'd like to send me an email or if you'd like to give me a phone call, emails BrushnSoapnBlade@gmail.com, and phone calls are 864-372-6234. So anyhow, let's get on with this show. Just in case you're wondering, if something unusual happened while you were downloading or attempting to download last week's episode 47, the mystery has been solved. I got a letter from Paul saying, I'm a fan trying to download your podcast, episode 47, and unlike all previous episodes, it's asking for a username and password. Is this some sort of permission error on this episode, or will this be required from now on? Your weekly meanderings keep me entertained as I drive to and from the office. Keep up the great work. Well, first off, no. I don't have permissions for my podcast, and something was obviously wrong. Well, I went to the site, and sure enough, the link from to my podcast host had gone to the login screen for the that I use to download podcasts. So it was asking for my password and username so that you could get in there. That's not the way it's supposed to work. So if you happen to wander upon that and think to yourself, all right, what's Rick doing? I honestly, when I put the link in there the first time, I didn't see it. I usually look for it. Didn't recognize it. I missed it. I'm sorry. Now, the other problem that I have is I usually don't go that way. I usually download through iTunes or Stitcher, and I have far less problems that way. So if you download through my blog, I appreciate it. I truly do. I understand, and I can't thank you enough. However, the absolute most trouble-free way that I have ever found to get to the podcast is through iTunes or Stitcher. It just works. It's one of those things. Maybe I'm technologically challenged. Yeah, that's the word. But anyhow, thank you, Paul, for letting me know that something was up. I did go out there and fix it, and hopefully it hasn't annoyed, too many people. I got a letter from Mark. Swan Song for Shavette. I was listening to your podcast about your camping trip, and I couldn't help remembering when I was a Boy Scout and I would be camping for a week in the Berkshires of Massachusetts. I truly believe the local farmers paid my family to send me on these camping trips. When I would go, it would rain day and night. The other thing I remember is that I could catch poison ivy if I saw a picture of it in the dictionary. Why is it that Spam tastes so good when you're camping? But I digress from why I am writing this. I was struck when you said that you have finally given up on the Shavette. I've been a big advocate for the Shavette, but now I must fess up. A while ago, I bought a Razor Rock open comb razor. On my neck, there is a spot where my beard grows in 3 different directions. I could never quite handle this patch with the Shavette completely. After using the open comb razor, I was surprised how I could get such a good shave with much less effort. But the end came when I recently received a Weber razor last week as a gift. This Weber razor is made in the United States and is really a well-crafted instrument. You spoke about the WSP El Grande razor before. The Weber is also a very impressive product. I switch off between the RazorRock and the Weber now. I have been using Persona blades, which you can pick up at Sally's or other stores pretty cheaply, and are also American-made, so I don't think I will be using my Shavette again either. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. From your podcast, I am now curious to try some vintage double edges. This is a hobby you can enjoy every day. Mark. Well, Mark, I absolutely agree. Sorry the Shavette didn't work out for you either. It's not for lack of trying. It's just me and it just really didn't get along. Just one of those things. I've heard about the Webers, and they look to be absolutely fantastic razors. I mean, the quality of build is evident even in the pictures. I can't imagine what one is actually like holding it. You know, it's I guess the best thing is, you know, you look at it and you know that you have in your hand a proper tool. And so that's good. Now, on to the vintage Gillette or vintage anything of that fact. Yes, vintage is fun. It is a fun part of the hobby. Sometimes you get very good razors. Sometimes you pick up ones that, well, maybe aren't so good. But that's okay, because that's part of the fun of trying to figure it all out. You know, and hopefully if you pick up vintage razors, you're not spending an arm and a leg. You know, Weber is a pretty hefty price for a razor. So whoever gave that to you as a gift, keep them around and keep on the good side, because they think you're worth something, which is always nice to know. But for me, part of the fun is the hunt, if you will, for different vintage razors. It's always fun and unique to be able to find one at a relatively inexpensive price, or sometimes just downright cheap, and clean it up and then realize that you have a 90 or 100-year-old razor that really does an excellent job and still functions well. And you think to yourself, wow, okay, this thing was made, for the most part, very inexpensively by the companies that made them, because their primary outlet and their primary cash cow, if you will, was not the razors themselves, but in fact the blades. So then you then turn around and kind of look at something like a Weber razor, which is, you know, machined and you know, made out of stainless and just a beautiful razor. And you think to yourself, okay, if something that was inexpensive, and I'm sitting here talking about this while I'm holding a razor that has a patent date of 1914. Granted, it wasn't made then, but the patent was, and so, you know, the patent is 100 years old on this razor. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this thing was made, you know, relatively inexpensively. It wasn't really meant to last. It was meant to do a job and basically be able to sell blades, because that's where they made their money. And then you think to yourself, okay, now you go to a Weber, or even some of the ones that we have today, the WSP El Grandes, or the How to Grow Mustache S42s, or some of the Parkers, or really any of the new modern era razors. If they are taken care of, you will be passing them down to children. It's a testament to the fact that it's a relatively simple device, and if it's made out of quality materials, it will last more than a lifetime. But that's I'm digressing too now, I guess. And speaking of the rain and poison ivy, I too have an issue with poison ivy. I got sensitized to it probably about 10 years ago. And since then, when I get it, I don't just get it a little bit. I get it a lot. And so I tend to stay away from that. But the rain is true. Every time that I go camping, for the most part, yeah, it rains. But that's okay, because rain makes things green. And I don't mind that. And the way my camping trips are nowadays, I've got it set up so that I really don't have to get wet unless I really want to. And that's part of the reason I camp in a hammock. And one of the nice things about that is that I put the tarp up, and then everything I do is in the dry. And then when I take everything down, if it's raining, everything is down and packed up before I take the tarp down. So everything that I do is in the dry, which is really, really nice, because I've had to pack up wet tents before, and I'm sorry, but that's just miserable. Anyhow, I digress. We're talking about shaving. Just one of those things. Anyhow, Mark, thank you very much. I do appreciate the letters. I love listening to people's adventures, and glad you finally fessed up. So I got a letter from David, and the title is Shaving with My Kids. So David writes, Dear Rick, first I'd like to thank you for your podcast, which I have been enjoying tremendously during the last couple of weeks since I first discovered it. I'm new to wet shaving. It's been 3 or 4 weeks since my first real shave. I was so fed up with my Gillette shaves that I browsed the internet for alternatives when my cartridges went out. One thing led to another, and suddenly I knew that wet shaving would be my way to go. As you can imagine, I haven't saved any money so far, which was my motivation to look for something else in the first place. Quite the contrary. I couldn't stop ordering new soaps, creams, aftershaves, and blades. But there is a big difference between spending money on fine products and wasting money on a mediocre shaving system and its PR machine. I now enjoy these daily shaves so much that each morning becomes a new, inspiring moment to look forward to. When I turned 35 yesterday, I couldn't have wished for a more wonderful day. Besides the new aftershaves, which made me very happy, the time I spent with my wife and our wonderful 3 little children was the greatest gift. A very special highlight was the joy that my boys Antonio, 7, and Raphael, almost 6, were having with all those lovely fragrances. They were so excited to smell my aftershaves and the shaving soaps that I asked them if they'd want to try to shave all by themselves. They couldn't have been happier. I removed the Astra Superior Platinum blade from my beautiful Mule R89, made some nice lather with my Kalani soap, and let them brush their cheeks and necks. I was proud to see with how much care and attention they shaved the lather cleanly off their faces. After a good rinse with water, they were allowed to choose their favorite aftershave. Antonio smelled fantastic with his Tailor of Old Bond Street sandalwood, and so did Raphael, whose choice fell on the Meyersol Balsamico. Mama, their little sister, and their grandma had to feel and smell and admire the little men's baby smooth cheeks. I can recommend this little game to every dad out there who is wet shaving. Such beautiful rituals strengthen the bond between father and son. My sons were so proud to be shaving like their daddy, and I was so proud to see my little boys enjoying their first ever shave. An experience that they will probably never forget. Of course, we now want to repeat this special father-son time on a regular basis. Wet shaving is so much more than a simple ritual of daily hygiene. It is a celebration of life. It is an act of cherishing the gift of life. It's about love and respect towards yourself and towards everyone else. To you and all your listeners, God bless. Keep up the good work and have a lovely next shave. David. David, I could not have said that better. What an absolutely beautiful sentiment. And I would also absolutely recommend that anyone who has young children, young boy children, that they do exactly what you have done. Because you're absolutely right. You will create and generate memories that neither one, yourself or your children, will ever forget. And in fact, making it a family affair like you did, it's not just you and the boys. It's the whole family who now have shared that experience and shared the joy of that experience. And that is why we are here to celebrate the joy of life. Well done, my friend. Well done to your sons. Well done to your whole family. I am absolutely blown away. As I was sitting here reading it, I was getting goosebumps. You can't do better than that. Congratulations. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to your son, Raphael and Antonio. Happy birthday. And thank you for the letter. So a couple days after running into the post with David and his boys, Antonio and Raphael, shaving, having their first shave, having a wonderful time on David's birthday, I was happily cruising around on Facebook when I ran into this. Joshua had put up a posting that his son, who is 10, had decided he wanted to try to make a lather. Now, he chose a Marvy boar brush because it was easy to hold, and Katie's Bubbles Gardenia soap because, well, it was his favorite. And so he posted some pictures of this young man, and the lather that this 10-year-old was able to generate with a boar brush and some Katie's Bubbles soap was, well, fantastic. I could only hope that all of you out there have lathers that are as fabulous as what this young man was able to do. And so I sent a message to his dad, and I said, hey, have him write me a letter and tell me about his experience. And a couple days later, I got a letter from Joshua. Now, Joshua starts out, but the real gem here is the letter from Ian. Okay, so we'll start. Joshua, thank you for taking an interest in my son's first lather. He was very excited to read the message you sent me and couldn't wait to write you a letter. Even though it is short, I watched him sit at the table and put real thought into his experience, and this is what he wrote. Now, before I read this, I have a picture here that was sent along with this of a handwritten note that Ian wrote me. How many kids nowadays sit down and write handwritten notes? Ian, thank you for the note. Congratulations and thank you. And here it is. Hey, it's Ian. I like lathering with my dad, and I love doing it. He might be giving me his second brush, which is not his awesome Omega. That is what's happening so far, but I can't wait until I get my own razor, and that is when I'll be as cool as my dad. I also want you to send me a picture of what you're going to use next. I asked him what he wanted a picture of, and he said, what he's going to use next, Dad, his shave of the day. Thank you for taking the time to read his letter. It means a lot to both of us. Have a blessed day, Joshua and Ian. Well, first off, Ian, thank you very much for taking the time to write me a letter, a handwritten letter. That is something very special. It is an art, and it is something that a lot of people don't take the time to do anymore. I can't tell you how much that means to me. So thank you very much. Great job on the lather. The pictures that I saw, you had it just about perfect. I don't think I could have done any better than that. And it really was cool to see those pictures. Now, I know what you mean about getting your first razor. I was excited when I got mine, too. Now, I must admit, I started out with an electric. but it was still pretty cool. I didn't start shaving with a regular razor until I was in the military. And then I had just, I think we had cartridge razors back then. I remember those. I don't remember ever using a double-edged razor until, probably about 2 years ago. And that's kind of when I started. But hopefully he'll be able to find you some really, really neat and nifty razors, and you guys can share wet shaving for years and years to come. It's a lot of fun, especially when you get into different kind of soaps and blades and all that kind of stuff. And gardenia is an excellent scent. And the Katie's Bubbles that you were using to lather did a very, very excellent job. So anyhow, thank you very much. I will send you a picture of what I'm going to shave with, and the next time I shave, I will take a picture. This week, I'm using a razor that is very, very old, and there'll be a picture up on my blog. But I will send you personally a picture of the next one. It should be coming in the mail soon. I'm kind of excited to get it. It was one that I picked up on eBay, and I'll send you a picture before I tell anybody else about it. So Ian, Joshua, thank you very much for the letter. It means a lot. Well, I have a new brush. My wife got me a new brush. She went over to L'Occitane and over there at the mall, and I had asked her if she happened to see one of these to go ahead and pick one up. And so she got me a Plisson L'Occitane synthetic brush. And I have been using this L'Occitane brush for a while, a couple of days anyhow. And I just recently, today, I just got done doing a comparison with my Samog 1305 bore brush. Now, my bore brush has been around for a while. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's one of my absolute all-time favorite brushes. I love the handle on the thing. It's very, very soft in my estimation. And so I really enjoy it. Now, if I look at the two brushes, the loft is almost identical on these two brushes. The size of the knot seems to be about the same. The bore brush is cut not quite as much of a dome shape, if you will, as the Plisson is. But one thing that is noticeable is the Plisson has just a bit of a shorter handle. It's probably shorter by, call it a 1/4 inch. But other than that, it's very, very similar. They're not too different at all. Now, what I did was I happened to have two salsa bowls that have been more or less modified to put a little texture in the bottom of them, and I figured, well, I'd use those two because that would be at least a fair test. And both of these brushes lathered very, very well. I used some Queen Charlotte soap sample that I had to kind of test them out and compare them to each other. One thing that I noticed that was, interesting, was the fact that the synthetic, the Plisson synthetic, almost made a smoother lather, if that's possible. I mean, the Samog, it was interesting. There seemed to be larger bubbles, if you will. It was almost like it couldn't get rid of them or something. Or on the other hand, the Plisson never generated them in the first place. But it was just one of those curiosities when I was looking at the lather. They're both lather monsters, but the synthetic seemed to do a little bit better job, which was rather curious. It wasn't necessarily anticipated or expected, but that's kind of the way it turned out. I mean, they both lathered very, very effectively, efficiently, quickly. From that aspect, there's really not a whole lot of difference. The other thing that was interesting is even though I used the same amount of water and shook the brushes out as much as I could, it seemed like the boar brush, actually the lather that was created was a bit moister. Almost like the brush maintained just a little bit more water than the synthetic did and dumped it into the lather, which I guess would make sense. Now, you're probably asking me, okay, that's fine, that's nice. I mean, get to the good stuff. Is it better or what? Well, what I found out and what I determined is that the Plisson synthetic brush is probably twice as soft as the boar brush. I mean, the tips are just, it's luxurious. It is fantastically soft. I've never had anything this soft before. I don't know if it's a situation where the really expensive Badger brushes are this soft. If that's the case, I know why people spend that much money on them. It is amazingly soft. It holds a huge amount of lather. I mean, it's just, it really is effective in that regard. Now, the one thing that it's lacking a bit of backbone. And the boar brush, while being soft, relatively, compared to some of the other brushes, has backbone. It's almost like you can feel the individual fibers in the boar brush. Whereas with the synthetic by Plisson, it is, well, it's just soft. It's like a cloud. It is absolutely fabulous. It's much different experience. Very, very nice. Now, in lathering, when applying the lather to the face, what I found is that the boar brush is much more effective in getting the lather on the face when using a swirling motion. The Plisson kind of, it's almost like it doesn't want to put it there. It's there and it's soft, but it doesn't really want to put it there when you're going in a swirling motion. The boar brush, on the other hand, has no problem with just dumping loads of lather all over your face in a swirling pattern. Now, if you then take the brush and use it in a paintbrush motion, the Plisson absolutely dumps thick, luxurious lather all over the place. But on the other hand, so does the Samog. So from that aspect, they're kind of tied. Now, if I was going to buy a brush that, let's face it, the Plisson brush, the L'Occitane synthetic, has met every expectation that I would have of a brush that costs more than double what my Samog does. But on the other hand, my Samog is a hell of a value. So that naturally tells me that this Plisson is also a hell of a value. I'm really, really impressed with it. If you don't have one, find one that has the same fibers. That's just, it's magical. It really is. I've been very, very impressed with it. Now, does that mean I'll give up my my boar brush? No. What I may end up doing is my synthetic brush will be the brush that I use for bowl lathering, and the boar brush, on the other hand, will be what I use for face lathering. Do I need to? No. I could probably face lather just fine with the new synthetic, but I kind of like the feel and the speed and the quickness and the exfoliating properties and, well, the softness and everything else of my boar brush. But I'm here to tell you, I am exceedingly impressed with this synthetic brush, and now I know what all the raving was about. So, these things, I think it was $55, and like I said, I really, really enjoy it. I could see, you could get addicted to this. It's just, like I said, rather magical as far as its softness. I may have to pick a few for some gifts, but anyhow, very, very impressed. and it's done an excellent job. Now, I haven't had it for very long. I've used it, about 4 or 5 days now, and it's really, really shown. I mean, it's a wonderful little brush, and it's about the same size as the boar brush. Now, what's interesting, and I may have to try this, I wonder if this will fit in my travel kit, because being synthetic, it would dry much faster. I mean, it'll dry in a matter of, an hour. It's, if you shake it out and then kind of dry it out on a towel, it's, for the most part, it's way drier than my boar brush is. So I may see, it may be a good traveling brush as well, but I'm here to tell you, if I travel with it, it's coming back and being put on the shelf and used almost immediately, because this is a really, really nice brush. Anyhow, it came in a nice box. It had a little drying stand with it, which was a nice touch. It's just a little plastic stand, but it is a very nice touch. It says, it's Plisson and from L'Occitane, and so that's a nice touch as well. I mean, get both names out there and give some publicity. Actually, it's for L'Occitane, and it's in French, P-O-U-R, pour. So Plisson pour L'Occitane. And anyhow, I would suggest spending the $55 if you can find one. Pick one up. It is absolute luxury. I mean, it's the more and more I get into this, it's almost like, okay, your first thing you do is, you start off with a razor that's, well, okay, and then you find one that's just, well, good, really, really good. And then you search around for blades, and then you find one that's, well, good, really, really good. And then you play with bowls for a while, and you discover scuttles, and it's like, ooh, this is nice. This brings a new element to it. And then you find a soap that is just absolutely fabulous and smells great and performs wonderfully for you. And then you find a brush that does everything you ever desired and just kind of takes it up a notch. Well, that's kind of like what this is for me. This brush right here, while I think it is my most expensive brush, from a tactile feel perspective, has taken my shaving up a notch. So, thank you, all of you who were out there bragging on your brushes and showing them off on YouTube and things like that, because it prompted me to go out and get one. And I'm going to be forever grateful, because it is really, really, really a nice brush. Like I said, go out and find you one, pick it up. You won't be disappointed. So the razor that I picked up and have been using this week, and much to my joy and surprise, and this little razor I picked up for a whopping $5 at an antique shop. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, $5. Well, it's an old single-edged razor, and it is an Ever-Ready. It is an Ever-Ready with a patent model date of 1914. So the patent date on this thing is 100 years old. Now, if I look at the back of it, the information says it's marked Ever-Ready, patented March 24th, 14. Okay, it is a single-edged razor. It's the whole head, the top of the head lifts up, and the razor, or the blade itself, is held in place with a little spring mechanism that's attached to the head. Anyhow, I have been using this razor this week, and it's a fabulous little razor. I mean, I really, really enjoy this one. It is it says on it, American Safety Razor Company Incorporated, New York, and then on the back side of it, it says Ever-Ready and patented March 24th, 14, made USA. And then on the top, on each side, it says lift here. And you lift here and you load the blades kind of from the back. Once you get the head open, and then you load the blades from the back side, and then they're held in place, and there's two small nubs on the lather, or on the bar, the safety bar. It's kind of a safety bar open comb type system that's made out of brass. It's, the whole thing is pressed brass, and a really nice little mechanism. It's got a little lather catcher on it. In fact, this is called, or commonly called, the little lather catcher. And it's got a very nice rounded handle, very similar to the Damascene that I also have. Now, this razor has given absolutely excellent shaves. Now, I picked it up at an antique store for $5 whole. And when I first saw it, I was like, this is kind of neat. Hopefully this will clean up nicely, and it did. It's all brass. It's, I don't know if it was ever chrome plated or if it's always been brass. It doesn't look like it's ever had any chrome on it. It just looks like it's been, it's spent its whole entire life being brass. But I've been shaving with a razor with the patent date, anyhow, that's 100 years old. Now, the thing about this is that they were available for sale, from what I can understand, from 1917 to 1919. So it's interesting that it's a later model of the type. There's another one that was 1914 to 1915, and it's marked on the back, American Safety Razor Company, New York patent pending, and that's from 1914 to 1950. 1914 to 1915. So I do have a later model, but you're talking about a later model safety razor that's almost 100 years old, and it shaves beautifully. I mean, it really does. Now, I've got the I put in some gem stainless blades, and believe it or not, even though they are gem stainless blades, they rust. Okay, usually with my carbon blades, I take them out after every shave and pat them dry and leave them kind of up on the shelf so that I know where they are and that they dry off and everything. And I didn't do it with these stainless blades. I wanted to give them a shot and see what was going on with them, and see if there was a discernible difference between the two. And lo and behold, the stainless blades have in fact rusted. So even though they stay stainless in the old razors here, maybe they're not. So keep that in mind. A lot of times, we talk about things that damage the edges of our razors, and rust, of course, is one of the big ones. So keep that in mind, and take proper care of your razors. Especially some of these old ones. Give them a good home, and take the blades out of them when they're done. Pat them dry and set them up somewhere where they're safe and where they can get air to them so that they don't rust and rust up your nicely cleaned razors. But anyhow, this is an absolutely beautiful little lather catcher razor. It shaves very, very nicely. It is just about on par with my Damascene as far as being a gentle razor. And it was $5. I mean, how can you go wrong at $5? Anyhow, that is my razor of the week. It's really been a fun razor to play with. Hopefully by the time this goes out, I'll have another razor that I got on eBay. It's another one that I can play with and experience, because I did go and get another one. Cost me a whole $9, but we'll see. Anyhow, that's my razor of the week. The gem. You say Jim, you say Everready. They were all the American Safety Razor Company. I mean, it's just it covered this broad range of stuff. So it's not like I'm misspeaking too awful badly. Anyhow, the razor of the week this week is in fact the Everready Little Lather Catcher 1914 patent date single edge razor in brass. A fabulous shave. Really, one of the things that I noticed about it when I was using it is this one really sings to me. When I say that, the single edge definitely have the audio feedback kind of down to a science, if you will. And this one is no slouch in that regards. It definitely sounds like you're doing some shaving, and it's rather loud and proud and kind of out there, and well, it's different from the double-edged experience. It surely is different from the injector experience. You know, those blades are so thick and held so close that there is no vibration in them at all. But you know, it's kind of like a brass instrument. You know, you've got this almost like a steel reed, if you will, that vibrates inside this brass casing, and yeah, rather a musical experience. But I have thoroughly enjoyed using it, and it has given very, very nice shaves. Now, when it comes to the soap this week, I took a bit of a stretch. At the same antique store that I bought my my Ever-Ready 1914 razor for a whopping $5, I also bought a puck of soap. A puck of vintage soap, a puck of Colgate soap. Now, this was probably made in the 90s or, late 80s or thereabouts. It does have a barcode in the box, which helps date it a little bit. But the box is about the same size as a box of Williams. And I thought, well, okay, we'll give it a shot. I mean, it's about 25 years old, but why not? Maybe this will be a good indication of what a puck of Williams will be like in 25 years. Okay, so what did I find out? Well, first off, what I did is I didn't put it in a mug or anything like that. I just kind of held it in my hand and, lathered off of the puck. With the puck being held in my hand. So it did make a little bit of a mess. Now, when I first tried it, the first thing that I noticed is that it wasn't a terribly thirsty soap. I mean, I could do a very nice lather with about 6, let's see, what would it have been? A tablespoon and a half of water instead of my usual 2. So that was nice and different. And, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of unique. It lathered very, very nicely. It lathered very, very well. It really was not a slouch in that regard. The problem that I had with it is when I put the lather on, what I noticed is that there was virtually no glide. There was cushion, but virtually no glide. It was almost like it was dry. And I thought to myself, okay, maybe it has... maybe any oils or anything like that have evaporated out or whatever. So the next day, what I did is I lathered up, but in the bowl that I used, I put 3 drops of glycerin, which is exactly the same thing that I do for Williams soap. In order to make Williams soap a pleasant experience instead of one where the razor's kind of skipping and bouncing all over the place because there's no glide at all, I put a little glycerin in it, and once I do that, it's a fairly reasonable soap. It's got glide, it's got cushion, and as long as I do my job lathering it correctly, it's a very nice soap. Now, is it an exotic soap? Is it Queen Charlotte Basilica or a Palm Olive or, some of the others that I use? No, absolutely not. You're talking about a puck of soap that costs like $1 or $2. So it's not, it's not going to blow you away with some kind of unique smell, a eucalyptus, cedar, lavender, or anything like that. No sandalwood scents here, but it is just an absolute basic soap. Okay, and this Colgate that I have been using kind of fits that same mold. In fact, on several occasions, I thought to myself, this is about the same time, same era. I'm wondering if Williams didn't make this soap. I was wondering, because of the shape and everything else, if either Colgate didn't subcontract to Williams, or the company that made the Colgate also made the Williams, or something like that. Yeah, it's possible. It's very similar, rather similar in appearance as well. It's just a nice little round puck of soap with a couple of kind of dye marks on it on each side. Nothing very terribly unique. It's just a small round molded soap. Okay. So maybe, just maybe, the same people that made one made the other. I don't know. But it was interesting in that the same system, if you will, that I used to get a decent shave out of Williams is what I used for a 25-year-old puck of Colgate. So the good news is that I know that with the pucks of Williams that I think I have like 3 or 4 up under the sink. And I know that at 3 drops, a shave, my glycerin will probably last, 2 years or so. I'll have shaving soap available for a long, long time. And I imagine that if, glycerin works, there's other products that could work as well to do kind of the same thing. I may have to try that someday, but glycerin does a very, very nice job right now. And so it was one of those things where I really just wanted to try it, to find out, okay, is this doable? Can you use a shaving soap that has been around for a long, long time? It's interesting. There are directions on the box. It's made by the Colgate-Palmolive Company, so at one time it's probably really, really good soap. Probably changed the formulation a dozen times to make it, well, what it's, is, which is essentially equivalent to Williams in my mind. So the directions say, insert Colgate shaving mug soap into the mug. Run hot water over shaving brush. Re-wet brush if needed. Stir brush and shave mug to whip up hot lather. Brush lather into beard and shave. Rinse out mug and brush after use. Shake brush dry. Well, those are rather cryptic instructions there. They don't really tell you a whole lot, especially knowing what we know now as a community. Just wetting your brush might not be as good as soaking your brush. May give the reason as to why a lot of the brushes from this age were busted up and had bristles broken off and everything else, because they didn't soak the brush and give it a chance to loosen up at all. So that may be part of it. But again, the lather of this stuff is lathered very, very nicely. It just didn't have any glide. And once we took care of that with a drop of glycerin, it was again a reasonable, inexpensive soap. Wasn't a good soap. It was a reasonable, inexpensive soap. I wouldn't buy any for a gift or anything like that, but it's kind of nice having a vintage box and knowing that, yes, indeed, I have shaved with that. So it is now back in the box. It will go under the sink and collect dust for, another 20, 25 years. And maybe in 25 years, someone will do a podcast and find it in an antique store and go, ooh, yeah, let me try that. It's only 50 years old. What can possibly go wrong? That's what I did anyhow. I just didn't wait quite as long. Anyhow, the moral of the story is that if you do find an old puck of shaving soap, if you can get it for a good price, there's probably nothing wrong with it. So give it a shot and let me know what the oldest soap you've ever used is. Write me an email, give me a call. Let me know, because I find it rather fascinating when people try the old stuff. I mean, I do it just to see what would happen, and maybe I'm different. I don't know. But I have enjoyed the experience, an old soap, an old razor, well, and a new brush that has been absolutely fabulous. But, it is one of those things that as you experiment with things, as you learn about soaps, when you run into one that's, well, maybe not just quite what you want, you have the information available at hand to make it conform to your wishes and glide properly and, well, give you a decent shave. Anyhow, don't be scared of the old stuff that's out there. Sometimes that's part of the fun of going to antique shops. And, if you happen to run across one, don't be scared. Give it a try. So I have a particular difficulty this evening as I sit here in the studio with the crickets and bullfrogs in the background, trying to figure out what to rant about. In fact, even today, this evening, I was standing there just looking pensive, and my wife asked me, well, what's wrong? And I said, well, I have a problem. I don't have anything to rant about. And she said, wow, really? That's never happened before. And I got to thinking, well, why is that? And then it kind of dawned on me. Okay, let me explain this a bit. Every now and then, things happen in your life and you just kind of go, yeah, that's about the way it's supposed to work. So what has happened? Well, first, I get the letter from David about his sons and the shaving experience that they shared. And it was an absolutely beautiful letter. And it just, it made me just think, there's hope. There's people that are teaching their children not to accept the marketing game. There's people that are teaching their children that, well, there's a better way, and maybe you don't have to buy into the marketing, and it's okay, and this is, they're showing, they're leading, they're doing something that quite honestly never happened for a lot of us, in that we never really had the opportunities sometimes to shave, with our fathers, because it was kind of a hidden away experience in the bathroom. And, I've talked about that before. At one time, it was kind of out in the open, and it wasn't any big deal. And then it kind of got hushed and put into the bathroom, and, well, that's, the door is closed kind of thing. And to get a letter that shares and shows that, an email that shares and shows that those traits, those knowledges are being passed on, and you wonder, okay, yeah, granted, shaving is a little thing, but if there's hope for something like that, is there hope for other stuff, like how to can food and how to cook and how to use knives? I'm always struck by children who come into Scouts who honestly have never held a sharp knife before because, well, their parents think it's dangerous. And so they never have the experience of actually being able to cut with a knife. And so, of course, the first time that they get one, they don't know what to do with it. Sometimes it's kind of scary. But, those experiences, those life experiences that they don't have, how to make a fire with a match. Yeah, when you think about it nowadays, nobody makes fires with matches anymore. They always do it with lighters or something else. So I start out with that letter. And then I see the post from Ian, where he's making lather, and I'm exhilarated because it's not just one or two. It's 3 now. I mean, it's everywhere, and you kind of think to yourself, okay, if it's 3 people that are posting, how many people are actually doing this kind of stuff that aren't posting and aren't putting pictures up and aren't letting the world know? Holy cow, that's fantastic. And then to get a handwritten note from a young man of 10 years old. And I'm thinking, okay, not only is this a great thing, not only is this something wonderful that they're having the experiences and they're sharing this with their fathers, but to actually have a young man write a handwritten note, which doesn't happen anymore. Not an electronic Facebook thing, or I'll text you, but an actual handwritten note. And all of a sudden in my head, it's like, my God, there's hope for the world again. And it really struck me like that. And then to top it all off, my wife comes home with this absolutely fantastic Plisson synthetic brush. And the reason that I really have a difficult time ranting is that right now, when it comes to shaving, when it comes to the shaving community out there, in my mind and in my heart, everything's right with the world. Well, I just don't have anything to rant about. I have no complaints right now. Because, you could always complain about marketing and you could complain about plastic and things, but it's okay because I know that there are people out there who've gotten that message, and not only who have gotten that message, but are sharing it with their children. You can't ask for more than that. Now, one thing that is rather fun and unique is to hear and to read the inspirational words of a young man who says, I can't wait to get a razor so I can be as cool as my dad. Now, that's just, that just still gives me goosebumps. That was good stuff. So, anyhow, it's one of those times and one of those days when, I look around in the last week and the shaves that I've had have been really, really good. It's just something about them. The soap, even though it was, a marginal soap, the razor worked fantastically. The brush was, brilliant. Like I've always said, about the time that I sit here and think, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore, and somebody writes me a letter and I think to myself, yeah, I'll go do another show. Yeah, that's what I do. It's just one of those things, It's almost like breathing anymore. It's really kind of gotten under my skin. But I don't know. Apparently I'm meant to do this. Which is okay because it keeps me off the streets. Anyhow, again, thank you for the letters. Thank you for all the connections that I've made on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and that has been an awful lot of fun. I thoroughly have enjoyed it. It adds a new dimension to all of this. When I first sat down, I thought to myself, okay, I'm just going to talk into the microphone and hopefully somebody will listen. Well, apparently there's a lot of people listening, which is really, really cool. I tell you I know how many, but I really don't. That's the one advantage of doing this for next to nothing is it comes with some sacrifices, like knowing how many people are actually out there listening. But that's okay, because I'll keep going. Anyhow, not a whole lot to talk about as far as a rant this week, because, like I said, in my mind, all is right with the world. So, have a good week. We'll see you next time. Well, that concludes this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have some suggestions or would like a topic covered, drop me an email at BrushnSoapnBlade@gmail.com or give me a call at 864-372-6234 or contact us on Twitter at BrushnBlade. You can also visit us at our blog, BrushnSoapnBlade.wordpress.com. As always, we're available on iTunes and Stitcher.